Peace on Earth, Ethan Indigo Smith here, the philosopher stoned, where we discuss the esoteric and the exoteric of all things across the spectrum of metaphysical and political. We leave no stone unturned. All right, so the reason most people know about the Hegelian dialectic at all is because of people repeating the idea, the triad behind the Hegelian dialectic and not repeating it. So the Hegelian dialectic is repeated and it's not really looked into. And when there's a triad set up like that and you don't look into it, you fall into the trap of it. So look into it. As soon as you look into the Hegelian dialectic, you find that it's called the Hegelian dialectic, but it really probably should not be called the Hegelian dialectic. Because although he came up with another triad that's similar, he didn't come up with this concept. Um, in fact, it's arguably many, many centuries older than that. Article below where I write about it. And in that article, I use the 14 unanswered questions of Buddha to more thoroughly understand the triad with a missing fourth part of the what's called the Hegelian dialectic and probably what shouldn't be called that. Okay, so the Hegelian dialectic, despite the different words used for it, is more perhaps most accurately labeled as thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. Excuse my lisp. And this is the triad that is sort of like a trap. And so if we repeat this trap, we get stuck in the trap. If we repeat the manure, we are shoveling more manure. So it's amazing to me how many people know about what's called the Hegelian dialectic, but don't really know about the Hegelian dialectic. We can look at it in most simple terms: A or B or AB. The synthesis is the AB, right? But this is not the totality of the choices. There is always what I call nullisis, and that's the X, and that's the completely out of the box, unsaid alternative that the schematic of the Hegelian dialectic prevents one from considering because you're only limited to going back to that mathematical illustration, you're limited to A or B or AB, the synthesis. So as soon as we stop repeating what is the thesis and what is the antithesis and what is the synthesis, then we can get out of the box into the nullisis. And it's an example of a bigger problem is repetition without investigation, right? So it's amazing to me how little people know about the Hegelian dialectic for how many people know the title Hegelian dialectic, and even fewer think about the X, the nullisis, right? None of that. That's the most powerful thing you can do in an argument is saying neither, none. You're both wrong. Let's start over. Let's move outside of this construct of a triad that's a trap. No, right? This is always an option. Um, so, I mean, we can see this play out many different times, but the most obvious example is Democrat idea, Republican anti idea, synthesis idea that really is just, you know, not really suitable for the actuality of what they were saying was the original problem to the original question, right? So, and as a matter of fact, that's why I relate the Hegelian, what's called the Hegelian dialectic, to the 14 unanswerable, unanswerables of Buddha, is that this question format is really helpful to um, utilize the Hegelian dialectic and not be used by it. Is it so? Is it not so? Is it both? Is it neither? Right? Those four questions are very important, and so important that when these unanswerables were posed to Buddha, that's how they formatted the subject matter. Is it so? Is it not so? Is it both? Is it neither? So I hope that is helpful for people to use the Hegelian dialectic with the analysis and not be used by it in a triad. Peace.